Political scientists develop theories or frameworks both to understand the causes of events that occur in international relations every day and to answer the foundational questions in the field. Although there are many contending theories in international relations, some take similar perspectives while others differ in significant ways. Three of the more prominent perspectives are developed in this book: realism and neo-realism, liberalism and neoliberal institutionalism, and constructivism. In brief, realism posits that states exist in an anarchic international system, that is, there is no overarching hierarchical authority. Each state bases its policies on an interpretation of its national interests defined in terms of power. The structure of the international system is determined by the distribution of power among states. In contrast, liberalism is historically rooted in several philosophical traditions that posit that human nature is basically good. Individuals form groups and, later, states. States generally cooperate and follow international norms and procedures that they have agreed to support. And international relations constructivists, in contrast to both realists and liberals, argue that the key structures in the state system are not material but instead social and dependent on ideas. The interests of states are not fixed but rather malleable and ever-changing. All three of these perspectives are subject to different interpretations by international relations scholars, and various theories therefore stem from each perspective. Those theories help us describe, explain, and predict. These different theories help us see international relations from different viewpoints. As political scientist Stephen Walt explains, no single approach can capture all the complexity of contemporary world politics. Therefore, we are better off with a diverse array of competing ideas rather than a single theoretical orthodoxy. Competition between theories helps reveal their strengths and weaknesses and spurs subsequent refinements, while revealing flaws in conventional wisdom. We will explore these competing ideas, and their strengths and weaknesses, in the remainder of this book. How do political scientists find information to assess the accuracy, relevancy, and potency of their theories? The tools they use to answer the foundational questions of their field include history, philosophy, and the scientific method. Inquiry in international relations often begins with history. Without any historical background, many of today's key issues are incomprehensible. History tells us that the continual violence in Jerusalem and in the West Bank is part of a dispute over territory between Arabs and Jews, a dispute having its origins in biblical times and its modern roots in the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. Sudan's 20-year civil war between the Muslim North and Christian/animist South and the Darfur crisis beginning in 2003 are both products of the central government's long-standing neglect of marginalized areas, exacerbated by religious differences and magnified by natural disasters. Without that historical background, we cannot debate the appropriate solution in the Arab-Israeli dispute, nor can we understand the dynamics between Sudan and Darfur and within the new state of the Republic of South Sudan. Thus, history provides a crucial background for the study of international relations. History has been so fundamental to the study of international relations that there was no separate international relations subfield until the early 20th century. Before that time, especially in Europe and the United States, international relations was studied under the umbrella of diplomatic history in most academic institutions. Having knowledge of both diplomatic history and national histories remains critical for students of international relations. History invites its students to acquire detailed knowledge of specific events, but it also can be used to test generalizations. Having deciphered patterns from the past, students of history can begin to explain the relationships among various events. For example, having historically documented the cases when wars occur and described the patterns leading up to war, the diplomatic historian can seek explanations for, or causes of, war. The ancient Greek historian Thucydides, c. 460 to 401 BCE, in History of the Peloponnesian War, used this approach. Distinguishing between the underlying and the immediate causes of wars, Thucydides found that what made that war inevitable was the growth of Athenian power. As Athens's power increased, Sparta, Athens's greatest rival, feared losing its own power. Thus, the changing distribution of power was the underlying cause of the Peloponnesian War. Many scholars following in Thucydides's footsteps use history in similar ways. But those using history must be wary because it is not always clear what history attempts to teach us. We often rely on analogies, comparing, for example, the 2003 Iraq War to the Vietnam War. In both cases, the United States fought a lengthy war against a little understood, often unidentifiable enemy. In both, the United States adopted the strategy of supporting state building so that the central government could continue the fight, a policy labeled Vietnamization and Iraqization in the respective conflicts. The policy led to a quagmire in both places when American domestic support waned and the United States withdrew. Yet differences are also evident. No analogies are perfect. Vietnam has a long history and a strong sense of national identity, forged by wars against both the Chinese and French. Iraq, in contrast, is a relatively new state with significant ethnic and religious divisions, whose various groups seek a variety of different objectives. In Vietnam, the goal was defense of the U.S. ally South Vietnam against the Communist North, backed by the Soviet Union. In Iraq, the goal was first to oust Saddam Hussein, who was suspected of building weapons of mass destruction, and second to create a democratic Iraq that would eventually lead to greater stability in the region. In both, although we cannot ignore history, neither can we draw simple lessons from historical analogies. Analogies are incomplete. Lessons are often drawn that reflect one's theoretical orientation. Realists might draw the lesson from both Vietnam and Iraq that the United States did not use all of its military might. Political actors constrained military actions. Otherwise, the outcome may have been different. Liberals might conclude that the United States should never have been involved since the homeland was not directly affected and one country's ability to construct or reconstruct another state is limited. What lessons can we draw from the United States' acquiescence to the Russian takeover of Crimea in 2014? Was this another Munich, when the Allies appeased Germany at the early stages of World War II? Or was this an affirmation of national self-determination since the Crimeans, mostly ethnic Russians, voted to secede from Ukraine and rejoin Russia? Was the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the 2015 agreement between the Western powers and Iran setting limits on Iran's nuclear program, another Munich or a Helsinki moment? Helsinki refers to the 1975 accord officially ratifying post-World War II borders and advocating for respect of human rights. History offers no clear-cut lesson or guidance.